extra ways. We have a system here that obviously you need to do the basic groundwork first in order to qualify for that. That is very important. And if I can talk to you about the fundamentals, really when we're thinking about results, 80% of your results are the fundamentals that you're going to learn. Okay, you have to continue with that in order to move any further forward. So if someone comes to me and says, Ange, I've heard that keto is everything. And I say, okay, great. What's your understanding of that? And what are you doing actually at the moment? Okay, and if you haven't got the fundamentals right, then there's no way in chance I'm going to let you do anything different. There's many ways to get to an end point. Okay, there are no perfect diets, and I'm going to really stipulate that. You can do any diet and it'll get you somewhere. The trick is to find something that you can actually sustain. Okay, because that's what's going to keep your results long after. So it's finding that balance, it's being realistic about that, but also actually just going, well, I'm an individual, unique person. So if a diet works for someone else, it's not to say that it might work for me, it might not as well. And that's okay. Okay? We don't always have to fit these diet dogmas and put ourselves in a box. Because as soon as you step outside the box, you get condemned for not doing what you said that you were going to do. And then you failed. And then that sets up a mindset of, I can't do it again. Okay, which then repeats your behaviours time and time again. So the guys talked about this sort of plateau or going up and down, and I talk about, when I talk about body composition and weight loss, the Nike swoosh. So basically we start off, and we have this great little challenge, and we drop weight. And then we do it so hard, or we go in so much with so intent that we restrict ourselves too much, that we end up rebounding, and then we end up putting on more weight than when we started. Who's experienced that? We might not have actually recorded it. Cool. So that's essentially what weight loss science will tell you, and if you look at all the studies, that's exactly what happens. It's a pretty grim result. The stats, I think, are around about 97% will do the Nike swoosh. And the problem is in how you start. Okay, so if we're starting with the intent just solely to lose weight, there's a wrong intent right there. We start with a better reason. What do I want to get out of this? If I had more energy, does it mean I could hit my business goals harder? And that's a completely different mindset, just looking at it rather than just fat loss perspective. So think about the reasons behind why you're doing something, what you can achieve, but have sustainability in mind, and know that build your own meal plan is the best way of doing it. And this is going to give you the blueprint to do that. So if we have a look, anyone read through their manual? Good, excellent, excellent. So I can see a couple of you guys have done the challenge before. So for the newbies, make sure you really go back and spend some time, allow some time for you to actually look into the manual itself, because there's so much information there that you're not going to absorb straight away by reading it once. We're going to continue to reiterate it, but often I would say refer back to it. This is basically what's going to be your blueprint. So if you print this plate page out and stick it on your fridge, you'll have a constant reminder of what you're trying to achieve when you're building your nutrition plans. So a baseline nourishment meal plan, we've gone with the sets of a plate, okay? And I want to give you guys a bit of an idea of how you build that plate. So most of that you can see is consisting of some sort of vegetables or salad. Fibre is the best thing that you can do for your body. And I'm not just talking about a fat loss perspective, I'm now really interested in mental health, okay? So when you increase the fibre in your diet, you increase your prebiotics. And now we've got a lot of research to support the fact that your gut microbiome is the pinnacle of, number one, your immunity, so it's what keeps you healthy, but also number two, it actually is what drives your mood. Really powerful stuff. Okay, so fibre is king. Veggies and salad, you can see it constitutes a little bit more than half of your plate. And I say, yeah, for the standard population, you might have heard somewhere along the track, half your plate's full of veggies and salad. Well, you guys aren't standard. You're doing a challenge. So I want to challenge you. Okay, this is for the general population that have half their plate full of veggies and salad. Who can tell me, I say this every challenge, what's the percentage of the Aussie population that is actually meeting their vegetable, fruit and vegetable goals? How much? Did I hear someone? 5%? Yeah, 4. Close. So 4% of the Australian population are reaching the target guidelines that's suggested by the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating to achieve their fruit and vegetable count. Do we know what that exactly is as a number? How many pieces of fruit and how many serves of veggies we need every day? 2 fruit, yes, 2 fruit and 5 veg. A serving of vegetables is a cup. Okay, so in relation to this, we'll look at hand portions as determining what your portions are, but it's basically about a fist serve, okay, of veggies. So 5 of these every day and 2 pieces of fruit. Hands up right now if you reflect on yesterday that you achieved that. So we've got less than 4% of the population here, okay? I'm just highlighting to you guys that this is really important stuff. We have to get the fundamentals right first. So it's very important that we start with this. So now we tick that off, we now go into the protein content. So the next most important thing when we're talking about a transformational behaviour change is your protein. And protein becomes very important when you're training, yes, because it's the building blocks of what you're trying to achieve. But it also, when you're in a calorie deficit, so if you've actively increased your activity, you'll quite naturally by those sort of means increase your energy expenditure, which puts you in a bit of a deficit to your current situation. Now, if we don't have enough protein, you're standing to lose a little bit of muscle over body fat if you're in too much of a deficit. So it's a really important thing, and so the data will show us now that you need to have high biologically available protein in your diet, more than what the general population would recommend if you're active and doing resistance training, which is exactly what you guys are doing here. Okay, so this is the next best thing. Veggies and salad and fruit first, and then obviously the next part of your plate is that lean protein. So the serving size that we're looking at, if everyone takes a look at their palm, not your next door neighbours, your own one, the inside circle of your palm is what we're looking at as a protein serve. Okay, so veggies, fist, and inside palm is protein. So 2 elements on your plate there. The next thing we're going to look at is around the corner is the fat serve. It comes back up, sorry. So, you know, when we're looking at fats, fat is, there was a low fat craze. Anyone still on band with the low fat craze? Yes. Do you still believe that fat's going to make you fat? Okay. So this is, it's just a nice highlight of what the society trends will tell you over the course of time and what we tend to believe. And I always say to people, look, I'm a nutrition expert. Why do I say that I can say that? Because I've done extensive study, I've done university degrees, I've got experience in the industry, and that's what I do. Now, for someone that might have lost about 30 kilos and publicised it as a large following, they become a nutrition expert too. But there's a pretty large disparity between the qualifications of our skill set. So when I say, okay, why would you want to believe me and what I do? It's for a simple fact of going, okay, I've worked with most people. I just haven't put myself through something and then gotten the other side, gotten a great result, and now I'm going to tell everyone else how to do it. Because once again, you're that individual, right? So finding what works for you is the best case forward. I would often do what I call the FOG test. So when you hear nutrition messages, because of course nutrition's available, it's so free these days, we're bombarded with all these messages, we go, well, what's right and what's wrong? There's a different diet on today's night every night, so what are we going to choose? Okay, or what's actually going to be best for me? So I often say any nutrition message that comes into your lap, I would do the FOG test. Number 1, F, is it a fact? And how can you prove that it's a fact? Number 2, is it observational? Is it something that I've just observed to be true? So is it F, O, and then G, or is it guesswork? Okay, so where are your nutrition messages coming from? And can you get to the point of going, okay, can I apply the FOG test to that message? And if you can get to a position of going, yes, I know it's fact for sure, okay, great, I'm more likely to follow something. If it's just observational, I'd be pretty wary. And if it's guesswork, then it's probably not true. Okay, so think about those sorts of concepts. And that's really, I go off on tangents a lot, you'll notice that. And that's really where I wanted to go with the whole fat concept. So once upon a time we believed that fat would make us fat, we stripped all the fat of our diet, we increased our refined sugary processed carbohydrates, and we all got fatter. Awesome! And now we go, holy shit, now sugar and carb is the enemy. Awesome! Okay, so what are we left with? Protein. Well, if we eat too much protein, we're going to have no other micronutrients, so we'll probably be deficient somewhere else. Awesome! Can you see where I'm getting at? You know, and then what are we left with? We're going to eat air. We survive on air. We need food to live. We shouldn't live to eat. Okay? So this is the other concept of getting your mind, stop focusing on the fat loss, but rather than really focus on really the reason why you're doing something and the outcome that you want to get out of it. Okay, so going back to fats, the fats that we're talking about here are maximising your unsaturated fats. So things like your seeds, your nuts, your olive oils, your avocados, extra virgin olive oil. I'll go through you guys with this in the cooking demo, but is is basically king of anything when you're looking at a sports performance anti-inflammatory effect. So please get those really good fats and look for those things to add into your meals, whether it's in your cooking or on top of using as dressings and things like that as well. So that is essentially your baseline nourishment plan. Most of your meals should be comprised of that, okay? The other plan then we go into is a post-training recovery plan. So because you guys are active, we need to have some form of carbohydrate. Now, carbohydrate is king when you're talking about performance. So when you do a workout, you are depleting your glycogen stores, and carbohydrate is simply, in broken down, simplest form, glycogen. So what we want to add now into the plate, so you can see the plate shifts a little bit now to be supporting a post-training recovery, which adds the element of starchy carbohydrates in there as well. So now we've got this idea of, okay, I've got some starchy carb. Fruit is really good to have, I would say, as a pre-workout. So having it just before, 15 minutes just before the session, do your session, and then have your post-training meal incorporate that starchy carbohydrate. So this is what you want to try and be aiming for as a baseline plate representation after you train. And so I've given you guys a bit of a list with where you can get the best sources of carbohydrate, protein, those sorts of things in your food list as well. Now for those guys who don't have any plant-based athletes here, and every one of you are an athlete, an everyday athlete, I call you guys, you're doing different training. So basically what we're looking at, there is a shift and a push towards plant-based, and once again, it's a bit trendy, it's a bit cool to do this sort of stuff, but I like to think about it as being smart when you're building your plate with a plant-based athlete. So there's some other things that you need to be a little bit more mindful of, and so whether you choose to have a plant-based protein, it's fine, but you need to be sort of pairing that up with a carbohydrate, and also looking at the overall concept of your day. So what you're trying to achieve is a few extra vitamins and minerals across that group because you're eliminating animal protein. So there is the option there to do that if that's how you would like to go. Otherwise, there's no harm in doing it just a normal stock standard way as well. And there might be a few days where you might do like a meatless Monday or something during the week where you're not doing animal-based protein, and that's totally fine as well. And I'd encourage you to explore those concepts as well, trying to do different meals and just get a different array of micronutrients when you increase the variety of what you're eating. Okay, so I'm really big on that. The more you can have within variety-wise, colours of fruit and veggies, or just sources of grains, all these different aspects of getting different fibre amounts but also different nutrition amounts from different food groups. So please, I encourage you to try new things and be able to experiment with different tastes and things like that. So moving outside the box a bit. But that's what the cooking demo is for. So any other questions on the plate stuff? Is it all pretty straightforward?
Just with the post-training plate.
Yep.
There's no capacity.
Yes. So what happens as a result, just to balance out the amount of nutrition that goes into that, is that we reduce the fat. You can still have some of it there, but it does account for the balance with everything else. Yeah. And so it's enabling you to not push over with your energy by default. So it just reduces that amount to allow for the carbohydrate amount. Totally fine. It's still in your cooking and stuff like that's totally fine. As opposed to the other plate where it was a full thumb size amount of fats. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
And then the tartar food, do you want both of those?
You can do. You can do, but I would often, and you guys will see the difference between the fundamentals and the athletic, is that you'll have some pre-training. So I would probably pop your fruit pre-training, as a bit of a primer for your workout, because I know the workouts that you guys do here are going to be what I call huffy exercise. So you are going to push the boundaries. You are going to get to the level where your body is utilising glycogen. So I'd definitely put the fruit just before in terms of timing. But it's okay if you don't. Then make sure you have it as a snack somewhere else around training around that time in the day as well. So that's fine. You don't have to have it all together. Awesome. So we'll go into portions now. So remembering those food groups in mind. So the protein, as I said, is the palm of your hand. Veggies and salad wants to be the fist size. Okay, for guys, it's actually going to be 2 fist size. For girls, start with 1, but if you can push it to 2, I would definitely encourage you to do that on your plate. So remember that portion of your plate as well. So 1 fist for veggies and salad, and then of course the protein there is your palm size amount. So males have 2. And if you start with this and go, wow, that's a lot of food, then you can cull it back to 1, okay, and build up. But the whole intent is that the more you train, the more you actually get to eat. because it'll support a better performance and then it'll make you more of an athlete. So I have to say, the top most elite athletes, it's interesting, we talk about the pyramid of performance, and a lot of people think that we have to have supplements to get further in life, but in fact it's the opposite. So it's the least of our worries. When the majority of the population looks at supplements first, the elite athlete will actually do more of the fundamentals because their energy expenditure is so high. So they just get to eat a broader amount of food and a lot more of it. So their body has more exposure to actually the good stuff rather than relying on the supplements. The supplements, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but it's just the 1%. It's the icing on top of the cake, so we call it. And even still, it's like the sprinkles on top of the icing on top of the cake. So there's so many other bases we can get right first. It's going to contribute to your results as opposed to just the supplements in itself. So food first, all the time. The fat serve, as we mentioned, is our thumb amount. So basically when we're looking at, 1 or 2 teaspoons of oil of some description, seeds or nuts, avocado, maybe a quarter of a medium avocado. So guys want 2 thumb sizes and girls want 1 to build that plate. Have I left anything out? Carbs. Okay, so starchy carbs. If you cupped your hand, it should fit as a cooked measure in the palm of your hand. So that's your carbohydrate amount. Okay. Really simple. And guess what? You can take your hands everywhere you go. So you've got no excuses to go, I have no control over how much I ate. I don't know. I haven't got my scales. No, it shouldn't be about that. It needs to be about you having a concept of my hands are a direct reflection of the portion sizes that I need. So if I'm a big person, I'll have bigger hands and my needs are bigger than the other person. Does that make sense? Cool.
But with the starchy carbs, you would include like carrots and
Yep. Yes. Yes. Yep. And that'll be a little bit more evident when you look at the list of where I've put things. Yes. So whilst, good point, Taryn, thank you. So whilst the potato, sweet potato and corn are a vegetable, the components of them are a little bit more favouring carbohydrates. So I've shifted them into the carbohydrate group. So they're the only veggies that I wouldn't consider as part of the fish serves of veggies. Cool. Green leafies to start, yes, but also very colourful is also really good as well. You get more micronutrients with that as well. Did you have a question? Protein for plant-based, but I would also, I think I've put them in carbohydrate. I can't remember. I think I've put them in carbohydrate for the mixed meal option, only because it does cross 2 food groups. So it would definitely be a protein option for a plant-based plate, and if you want a vegetarian meal, for sure, but it can also cross the starchy carbohydrate option as well. Yep. You guys are onto it. I'm liking this. Okay, so the Simple 6 is really what it's all about, and the concepts of what we're trying to achieve are really reflected in your meal plan itself. So it's just really 6 simple steps, and we believed in them so much that we got you guys a little pocket guide. So in your manual, if you printed it out and cut it out, you could fold it up and just keep it in your back pocket, and that's the intent. So you can just whip it out and go, right, I've got like all the tools I need to move forward with. So really it's about looking at, as I said, the things that are going to make the most impact really when we talk about results and longevity of what we're trying to achieve. So the pocket guide is in there. Number 1 is looking at the mindfulness of eating. So obviously when we eat, there's a lot of distraction that happens, and I just want you to be wary of where do you eat? Like think about the last meal you had and how was that consumed? Was it on the run? Were you watching TV? Were you answering emails? Was it in the car on the way here? Think about that. So give and respect your food, but give it the time it needs for digestion, and awareness is really what we're talking about. So being present in that moment and connecting, chewing, swallowing, nourishment, all these sorts of things, we slow things down. It takes about 20 minutes for the brain and the stomach to get a receptive response. So when you're eating, a lot of us shovel and we do so mindlessly. So we do it watching TV. The biggest example I could tell you to illustrate my point was in a movie theatre. I saw probably about a 14-year-old boy literally get a packet of the peanut M&Ms and drink it, I'm talking drink, not even using his hands. It was, I remember that concept so vividly, and I said, oh, God, and then even before the movie started, so then they came to the popcorn, and I was like, wow, so these are the things that we do mindlessly, and we kind of go, I just wouldn't have thought that. But if you'd sat there and if I got that person to go, right, you're going to do exercise. I want to pull you out of the movie theatre. You're in the nice sunshine. You're going to enjoy the day. Look at the birds. Okay, now we're going to open up that packet of peanut M&Ms. I'm going to just take one. And we sit it on the palm of our hand. And we see, well, what colour is it? Oh, it's a blue one. Great. And when I put it in my mouth, what does the texture feel like? Okay, what am I going to get from that? So really slowing down that process and being connected with that moment. I'm not suggesting you guys need to do that for every single meal, but just move away from distraction and you'll stop shoveling. Yeah. So the other really cool tip is that we do is with your knife and fork or your spoon, whatever your utensil that you're eating with, I would say put it down and chew and swallow your meal before you pick it back up again to take the next one. And that's going to really slow your process down, which will help you connect a little bit more, but it will also stop you from shoveling. Because often we are taking another mouthful before we finish the one that's already in our mouth. So just think about those sorts of things as behaviours, okay, and just try and slow that process down. So really that's what eating mindfully is about. Where is your protein-dense food? Remember that palm size and look at that in every single meal. Where is your veggies or salad? Where are your carbohydrates? When am I putting that in? I'm putting it in the meal close to my training session. So for you guys, sometimes it might be in the morning or sometimes it might be in the evening. Has anyone heard about the little carb storing fairy that comes out at 4 o'clock and then just sucks everything up and just increases your fat overnight? Yes? No? Obviously I'm being sarcastic. So it doesn't matter where you put your carbohydrates. We have a 24-hour window of opportunity in terms of our feeding and nutrition. So within that 24 hours, I would like to look at your nutrition as a whole day. If you were training twice a day, then it would be more imperative for me to focus on your training nutrition a little bit more. That's more so for the athletic category, guys, and you have a separate sort of thing to look at with that in mind. So generally, day to day, it doesn't matter what the time of day that you eat. It doesn't matter how frequently you eat. We've done studies on this. Is 6 meals better than 4? Is 2 meals better than 6? Should we do fasting? It doesn't freaking matter. There is a science at the end of the day about an energy balance, and I'll talk about that in the seminar in a little bit more detail. Yes?
In relation to that, with the amount of meals you have per day,
yep.
It wasn't super clear to me how many portions we were meant to have.
Yes, good point. Yes, so in your checklist, there's a tick and flick list. There is 4 options to have 4 meals in a day. So that was not that clear, but you'll find it reflected in that little tick sheet. I've said that way so many times, obviously. Tick and flick sheet.
So
4. Each the plate, so we talk about the plate. Yeah, so when you think about the plate and in its entirety, so 4 of those, 3 of those probably, and 4 will have that starchy carbohydrate, so that's your 4th meal. So probably 1 is a post-training meal if you train once a day. Most of the other time is 3 more of the other ones. So it's 4 meals a day that we're trying to achieve. Now, what we usually tend to do is go breakfast, lunch and dinner. Okay, I'm used to eating that. That's how I eat culturally. Then the 4th meal we go, oh shit, well, where are we going to fit it, right? Number 1, or where am I going to actually find time to eat it because we don't have a lot of time in our day. So I would say deconstruct the 4th meal if you wanted to. So you can have it as a snack options throughout the rest of the day and you don't need to eat it all together. So that's the other idea. Don't be too threatened if you go, oh look, I've got my salad and my protein but I've forgotten my carbohydrate that day. Okay, that's fine. What about the next meal you choose as a carbohydrate based snack? You know, so you might just have a piece of toast or something. You know, so you can make up for it. Don't be too intent on and focused on going, oh, I have to get it perfect every single time. It's good to be prepared and do those things, but I know life gets in the way, so that's okay if you want to deconstruct the last meal or just have it in different parts. So your protein element might be a high protein yogurt that you have as a snack, so that's your protein. And then you might snack on some veggie sticks with some hummus or something like that. So you've got the other elements of the plate within that, and then you might grab a handful of nuts and that's your fat portion. So if you see what I've done there with that last meal, so we're aiming for 4 a day, but you can break that up into like a deconstructed snack plate as well. Cool? I know I talk too long when the screen goes off. Where are your fats coming from and where's your water is the other simple thing. So your water is really, really important. So hydration is really important. As soon as you increase your fibre, guys, if you do not drink water with it, you will sit in the toilet constipated. Who wants to do that? As humans, we go towards pleasure and avoid pain. I'm telling you right now, have your water, because as soon as you increase your fibre, you'll be in a lot more pain if you don't do your water as well. So please do that. Is that a good enough reason to drink? Awesome. The other reasons are, obviously, we are comprised of about 70% 100% water. You are sweating when you are doing training here. We need to replace and replenish that. We also need it to feel full as well. So water as first importance. Tea and coffee come a close second. They are not dehydrating factors. Caffeine does dehydrate you. 1 milligram dehydrates you by 1 mil. So if you think about a coffee, you've got more water in there than caffeine, you're still hydrating. However, I would say tend not to rely too much on caffeine because it has an adrenal stimulating effect. So don't go over 3 shots a day. Okay? The last challenge, no, 2 challenges ago, I pulled caffeine out altogether and I got really bad reports and feedback from everyone. So we've added it back in. So thanks to those guys. But it is to be used and be aware of how you're using caffeine as an alertness booster. Cool. Are we all good? So far, so good? Still got, how much time do I have?
Well, it's 9 now.
Oh, great. Righto. So this is your chart that I was talking about with the 4 meals. I'll quicken it up now. And then, of course, we have the hunger game, which is going to help you a little bit. It's a bit of fun. It's something to do if you get a chance. I often say to people in the first week, try and do most of your meals the hunger game, because then you'll get an awareness of, oh, am I actually being mindful of what I'm doing? So that's the whole, can I be mindful? This is a reason how to do it. And really it's about stopping and just going, am I actually hungry? So when's the last time that you actually felt physical hunger? So I'm not just talking, oh, it's a good idea because I saw someone else eat a donut, or I smelled the bakery as I walked past and I felt like eating something. You know, so really think about when you've actually been physically hungry, because that's a really important cue. And a lot of us lose that over time. We eat because it's time. We eat because our next door neighbor did. We eat because we're going somewhere and you don't know when your next meal will be. We eat for many, many different reasons, but the whole idea is that your body should eat when it requires nutrition. Okay. Yes. Okay, so there is a tipping point. Yes. Then you go to this whole element of, oh my God, and then if you've ever done the grocery shopping when you're completely starving, you're going to buy way more than what you anticipated. So definitely there is a tipping point, and the hunger game will help you assess that, okay, to not get to the level where you're completely starving and you're like, holy shit, what can I do now? And you'll overconsume to compensate. We are really funny creatures, but the more you learn about yourself throughout this journey, the more you'll be attuned to being intuitive about eating. And that's the biggest point from my perspective, is to go, you don't need a meal plan. I want to get you to the point where you can go, yes, I can eat and I'm intuitive about what I'm doing, I'm getting good results, I'm healthy, I'm performing well, and I don't need to follow something to do that. That's an ultimate win for me. And that's what we're trying to achieve. So adherence chart, the trainers will be checking up with you guys on that. We don't want you to do calorie counting, food diaries. You can if you want to. Extra detail is great, but really all we need to know is, did you do it or did you not? And so the more times you can see that you're not doing it or you're missing meals is a highlighted red flag for us that we need to then maybe spend a bit more time investing in that area of the challenge. Okay, so it's just a nice little factor. Superfuel pantry list, as I said, those food groups I've given and handpicked the ones that I think are going to be the best sources of protein, carbohydrates, fats, and I've listed in that there for you. And then, of course, I want to give you guys a bit of a meal building planner. So what I have suggested is that for a lot of people, we found that everyone wanted recipes. I've given you some recipes, but really I want you to use this flavor chart in order to build your own, because I don't know what your preferences are. Okay, I can't stand the smell of kangaroo cooking, so I'm not going to eat kangaroo, all right? But for some other ones, some other people, that might be a delicacy. That's totally fine. Whatever your preference is, start with what you've got already in your fridge and freezer, okay, and then move from there. So go, well, okay, I've got some chicken in the freezer. I'll just pull that out. Okay, great. So take your chicken and then go across the line and go, okay, is it a post-training meal? What sort of fruit and veg would go with that if I'm going to build that plate that I remember? And then I'm going to go to the next bit and add a little bit of flavour, because it doesn't have to be boring, okay? So this list will tell you a bit of the spices and the combination of flavours that work well with that base of protein. And then you can add your starch, your carbs, if it's around a training meal. But if it's not, then just leave it out, okay? And then some other foods that might complement the protein that you started with. So this is where I've gone through and listed these things. Have a look at it when you're building your meals. It doesn't have to be boring. The key to sustaining something is also variety. So as soon as you get bored, you're likely to go, I'm not going to follow my diet anymore. Okay, McDonald's, whatever, I'll drive past something, I'll get somebody else to make my life more enjoyable with food. Okay, when you have the skills, you need to be prepared and forward thinking for this to happen. Okay, so there's a whole list of things for you to do there. And as we said, make sure that you work on your portion sizes as well, but also think ahead of time. So if you're going to go, I'm going to create a meal, why don't I cook 2 serves of that so I can have it for lunch the next day? So that box is ticked as well. So think about forward planning. The recipes that I've given you guys each an example of different training times and when those meal plans would come in, obviously factoring in that carbohydrate component goes after training. Okay, so there's a bit of an example there, and a bit on mindset stuff with Jace, which Jace will go into next time. So really focus on reading that before you come in for your seminar. Now, athletic guys, you will notice that your challenge, the fundamentals is a little bit different, but you've been given a little bit of somatotyping. So if you have a chat to your trainers, because I think the biggest thing for you guys is to work out what somatotype you are. Often we have a really poor perception of ourselves. And so what body type would you be more suited to, and then just follow that. So the same concepts, you're just now stepping it up a level in terms of what's right for my body type. Okay, does anyone have any questions about the athletic body type meal plan so far? No, okay, really that's the only difference. The only thing I want to just highlight quickly, I'm so sorry for keeping you, but what we do suggest is recommending, if you haven't had a blood test at some point in time, the athletic challenge is really a good marker for you to go, maybe I better look into some of these sort of underlying things. So we've partnered with this amazing company, it's called iScreen. So basically it's called intelligence screening, and it actually picks up some biomarkers in your blood to prevent things, or just to even have a check of what your where your hormone status is at. And so these underlying factors, I know for instance we've had a couple of people last time with the athletic challenge that were very sort of recently fit and healthy people. They went and just did a blood test just because they hadn't done one in a long time, and it pulled up things like low iron. So, you know, you could be operating at a substandard level. Unless your baseline results tell us that picture, I would never supplement. Okay? So we always say food first, but if you've got an underlying factor that's stopping you from moving forward, you're always going to feel substandard. So we need to have the data in order to work with that to move forward with, so we can do something about it. So this is just something that's really interesting, because I've never found a pathology test where you can go, it's so easy, you can go in and just choose the test that you want to do, log in your details, it'll print your pathology form, you go get it done. Can you get the results? It's all online, and if you look at the test, what we probably suggest for you guys is either the well woman or the well man check. This is for the athletic group, and even the fundamentals if you're curious about this stuff. Or there is, if you look, there's a sports hormone check, there's all these other checks that you can do if you're starting to think that possibly there might be something else going on, whether you're experiencing symptoms or you're just feeling a little bit under the weather. So that's all there. You guys have 10% off with Form360 with the code in. We'll send you an email about it if you're interested in this sort of stuff. Not necessary, but just there if you wanted to for the athletes. You can't, I'm working on it. That's the only thing. It is a private company, but you know what? A lot of these tests you can't get through your GP. And that's the reason why this was created. So for me, with a lot of athletes that I work with, I'd often say, hey, go and get your cortisol checked, because you've had a long fat loss period, your stress levels are probably through the roof, you're an overachiever, you know, and the GP would come back and go, what are you testing for, cancer? Like, I'm not going to administer this test. And so for me, it wasn't a case of, it was a preventative more than a sinister, you know, reason for wanting the test itself. So I was so happy when I found you guys, and I went, great, there's finally an opportunity for that to happen. Unfortunately, because it's private, it's obviously out of pocket, but hopefully at some point in time we'll be able to get that on a rebate. Yeah, I'm working on that. So guys, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I am going to come back and talk again over the course of time. So hit me up on questions on the forum as well. Is there anything that I can address for you guys right now at the moment? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah. I do it, definitely after, because you're just not going to have, like, you won't be able to stomach having a full meal before, and then you just roll straight into your breakfast. You have some carbohydrates in there as well, for sure. Yep. Bananas and dates, I'd probably suggest before training, because anything else might be yeah, easy digest. Cool? Yes, guys, get excited!